Dream Fuel Stories, the power of patience. Hey there, before you close your eyes tonight, I want to share a story with you. A story that can shift the way you think, give your heart peace, and fill you with hope for tomorrow. Tonight, let's take a few minutes to recharge together and remind ourselves that strength is always closer than we think. You know, in our fast-paced world, we often expect instant results. We plant seeds and wonder why flowers don't bloom overnight. We start journeys and get frustrated when we can't see the destination around the first bend. But some of life's most beautiful transformations happen in the quiet spaces between effort and reward, in the sacred pause between planting and harvesting. Tonight's story is about patience, not the passive kind that simply waits, but the active, hopeful patience that continues nurturing even when nothing seems to be happening. It's about understanding that the most profound changes often occur beneath the surface, invisible to the eye, but absolutely essential to growth. So settle in, take a deep breath, and let me tell you about Alex and a lesson that changed everything. What part of your day today made you feel challenged? Maybe it was waiting for results that haven't come yet, or continuing to work on something when progress feels invisible. Write it in the comments. I want to know, because tonight's story is for everyone who's ever wondered if their patience will pay off. Alex stared at the empty lot behind their grandmother's old house, a patch of earth that had been neglected for years. The soil was cracked and dry, scattered with weeds and debris. Most people would have seen nothing but barren ground, but Alex saw potential. "I'm going to create something beautiful here," Alex announced to their skeptical family at Sunday dinner. "A garden that will feed the whole neighborhood." Uncle Marcus laughed, not unkindly, but with the weariness of someone who had seen too many abandoned dreams. "That dirt hasn't grown anything decent in 20 years, kid. Save your money and your energy." But Alex had made a decision. The next morning, they stood in the garden center, holding a small packet of heirloom tomato seeds. The elderly shopkeeper, noticing Alex's determined expression, offered some advice. "These seeds are special. They'll grow into the most flavorful tomatoes you've ever tasted. But they're not like the quick-growing varieties. They need time, patience, and consistent care. Most people give up on them." Alex smiled. "I'm not most people." The first month was brutal. Every morning before work, Alex would water the seemingly lifeless patches of soil. Neighbors walking by would shake their heads sympathetically. Children pointed and whispered about the person who was watering dirt. Even Alex's closest friends began suggesting other hobbies. "Maybe you should try container gardening instead," suggested Maria, Alex's best friend since childhood. "At least you'd see results faster." But something deep inside Alex refused to give up. Each morning, while the world was still quiet and painted in soft pastels of dawn, Alex would tend to the earth. They improved the soil gradually, adding compost and nutrients. They pulled weeds with meditation-like focus. They whispered encouragement to seeds they couldn't see, trusting in a process they couldn't control. 2 months passed, then 3. Other gardeners in the neighborhood had already harvested their first crops from fast-growing vegetables. Alex's plot remained stubbornly bare, mocking their daily efforts. The doubt began creeping in during the quiet moments, while washing dishes, during lunch breaks, in the space between sleep and waking. Maybe everyone was right, Alex thought during a particularly discouraging morning in month 4. The sun was beating down mercilessly, and the watering can felt heavier than usual. Maybe I'm just fooling myself. That's when Mrs. Chen, an elderly neighbor who had been watching Alex's routine from her kitchen window, approached the fence. Her weathered hands gripped the chain link as she spoke with the quiet authority of someone who had lived through many seasons. My grandfather was a farmer in China, she said softly. He used to tell me that the earth has its own timeline, not ours. The strongest plants often take the longest to show themselves because they're busy building roots we cannot see. Underground, where it matters most, your garden is working. Alex looked up from their watering, sweat dripping from their forehead. But what if nothing ever grows? What if I'm wasting my time? Mrs. Chin smiled, the kind of smile that holds decades of wisdom. Time is only wasted if you stop learning from it. Even if nothing grows this year, you're learning patience. You're learning faith. You're learning that some things cannot be rushed. These are not small gifts. Inspired by Mrs. Chen's words, Alex decided to expand their understanding of patience. They began researching their seeds more deeply and discovered something remarkable. Heirloom varieties often take longer to germinate because they haven't been modified for quick production. Instead, they develop deeper root systems, stronger stems, and more complex flavors. The waiting wasn't a flaw, it was a feature. This revelation changed everything. Alex stopped seeing the empty days as failures and started viewing them as investments. Each morning's routine became a meditation on trust. They began journaling about the process, documenting not just what they hoped to see above ground, but what they imagined was happening beneath the surface. Month 5 brought the first miracle. Tiny green shoots, barely visible, pushing through the earth like whispered prayers finally being answered. Alex knelt in the dirt, tears mixing with morning dew, overwhelmed by the profound joy of witnessing life emerging from apparent nothingness. But the real lessons of patience were just beginning. The seedlings grew slowly, maddeningly, beautifully slowly. While other gardens exploded with quick growth, Alex's plants developed with deliberate intention. Each leaf seemed carefully considered, each branch strategically placed. Alex learned to celebrate millimeter progress, to find excitement in the gradual darkening of green, the slow strengthening of stems. Neighbors who had once pitied Alex's dirt-watering routine began stopping by with curious questions. "How did you know they would grow?" asked Mrs. Rodriguez from 2 houses down. Alex paused, realizing they hadn't known, not really. "I guess I decided to believe before I had proof," they answered. And then I kept believing until the proof caught up. By month 7, Alex's garden was transforming into something extraordinary. The plants, with their deep root systems and strong foundations, began producing tomatoes unlike anything anyone in the neighborhood had ever tasted. The flavors were complex, rich, with depth that could only come from slow, patient growth. But the greatest transformation wasn't in the garden. It was in Alex. The person who had started this journey was someone who needed immediate feedback, who got frustrated with slow progress, who often abandoned projects when results didn't come quickly. The person tending this garden 7 months later had learned to find joy in the process itself, to trust in invisible progress, to understand that the most valuable growth often happens where we cannot see it. Local restaurants began asking about Alex's tomatoes. Food bloggers wrote about the miracle garden that had grown from barren soil. But Alex knew it wasn't really a miracle. It was patience made visible, consistency given form, faith rewarded with flavor. The story could end there, with the successful harvest and the lessons learned. But life, like gardens, is cyclical. The following spring, Alex faced a new challenge. A late frost threatened to kill the newly planted seedlings. Standing in the cold morning air, looking at plants that might not survive, Alex felt the familiar whisper of doubt. But this time, doubt was accompanied by something new, deep-rooted confidence. "If they don't make it, I'll plant again," Alex said aloud to the frost-touched air. "And if those don't make it, I'll plant again."
I know now that patience isn't about waiting for things to work out. It's about continuing to show up even when you can't see the outcome. Some plants were lost to the frost, but many survived. Alex replanted the empty spaces without despair, with the calm certainty of someone who had learned that setbacks are not failures, they're simply part of the growing season. Years later, Alex's garden had become a community hub. Neighbors gathered there for impromptu conversations. Children learned about growing food, and anyone facing their own season of patient waiting could find encouragement in the thriving plants that had once been invisible seeds in stubborn soil.
The most frequent question visitors asked was, "How did you know to keep going when nothing was happening?" Alex's answer evolved over time, but the essence remained constant. I learned that patience isn't about knowing the outcome. It's about trusting the process. It's about understanding that the most important growth often happens in the dark, beneath the surface, where we can't see it, but where it matters most. Lesson: great things often take time, and success comes to those who don't give up. True patience is active. It continues to nurture, believe, and show up even when progress is invisible. If you were Alex in those first few months of seeing no results, what would you do to keep your motivation alive? What would you tell yourself during those early morning watering sessions? Alex found encouragement from Mrs. Chen's wisdom about underground growth. Which part of this story gave you the most hope? And how does it relate to something you're patiently working on right now? Comment below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Your engagement helps this message reach others who might need to hear it tonight. Take a moment and think about today. No matter how hard it felt, tomorrow is another chance. Even a tiny step can turn your whole day around. Believe in the power of small actions. Alex's story reminds us that we live in a world obsessed with instant results. But the most meaningful transformations happen on nature's timeline, not ours. Right now, in your own life, there might be seeds you planted months or even years ago that are still growing beneath the surface, invisible but not inactive. Maybe you've been working toward a goal that feels impossibly distant. Perhaps you've been developing a skill, building a relationship, or healing from something difficult, and the progress feels so slow it's almost non-existent. Alex's garden teaches us that this apparent stillness might actually be the most productive phase of all. Think about the roots growing deep in your own life, the habits you're building, the knowledge you're accumulating, the character you're developing. These foundations are being established right now, in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when there's no immediate reward, when faith is your only evidence of progress. The most beautiful part of Alex's story isn't the successful harvest. It's the morning routine that continued through months of apparent failure. It's the decision to water soil that looked empty, to believe in growth that couldn't be seen, to show up consistently even when doubt whispered loudly. What is one small thing you can do tomorrow to feel stronger and more hopeful? Maybe it's continuing to water your own seeds, whether that's a skill you're developing, a relationship you're building, or a dream you're nurturing, even when you can't see immediate results yet. If this story gave you even a little spark of hope, share it with a friend, hit the like button, and come back tomorrow. We'll check in on today's story and see how it unfolded. You won't want to miss it. Subscribe to Dream Fuel Stories so every night you can end your day inspired. You know what's remarkable about Alex's journey? It started with a single decision to see potential where others saw problems. It continued with small, daily actions that seemed insignificant, but accumulated into something extraordinary. And it transformed not just a patch of empty ground,
but a person's entire understanding of how growth really works. Tomorrow night, we're going to explore what happened when Alex faced their biggest test yet. A challenge that would require every ounce of patience they had learned, and then some. We'll discover how the lessons from that garden prepared them for life's unexpected seasons, and how the roots they had grown, both literal and metaphorical, became the foundation for something even more beautiful. Plus, I want to share some of the incredible responses you've been leaving in the comments. Your own stories of patience and persistence are inspiring others in ways you might not even realize. This community we're building, one story at a time, is becoming its own kind of garden. Until tomorrow, remember, somewhere in your life, something beautiful is growing, even if you can't see it yet. Keep watering those dreams, keep tending those goals, keep believing in the power of patient progress. Do you have your own story of patience paying off? Or are you currently in your own seed planting phase like Alex was? Share your story of courage or hope in the comments. We might feature it in our next video, and your experience could be exactly what someone else needs to hear.